Hey everybody, this is Peter with Tabletop Gaming Guild, and today we're going to be taking a look at Fantasy Age 2nd Edition from Green Ronin. Big shout out and a thank you to Green Ronin for sending along this PDF copy of the core rulebook so that we could take a look at it and review it and talk to you all about it and hopefully help you, if you're watching the video, decide if this is the game for you. Maybe some of you out there have already played Fantasy Age 1st Edition. If that's the case, I'd love to see your comments below this video. Tell us a little bit about what you love about Fantasy Age, maybe what you're looking forward to with Fantasy Age 2nd Edition. So with that out of the way, everybody, let's go ahead and dive right on in. And we'll do a quick read through of some of the things that you will be getting with this core rulebook. It says, leap into sword and sorcery RPG adventures with the Fantasy Age core rulebook. Powered by the popular adventure game engine, Fantasy Age 2nd Edition is easy to learn, fun to play, and welcoming to new role players. The Fantasy Age core rulebook includes these features: simple character creation, heroic stunts, mighty magic, game master guidance, customizable rules, the Stranger's Shores, which is a campaign setting that they are providing here, and Breakwater Bay, which is a starting adventure to kick off your campaign, and so much more. All right, now we're going to jump on over to our table of contents, which shows us that the book itself is broken down into two major sections, a player's section and the game master's section. This is pretty general for a lot of role-playing game books, especially these core books that have everything all together as one. And so the player's section is made up of 6 chapters, one on character creation, one on the basic rules, another for character options, and then equipment and magic and stunts. And then the Game Master's section is broken down into some chapters as well. We have the Game Master, Mastering the Rules, Adversaries, Rewards, and Breakwater Bay. Breakwater Bay, again, being the section where we're going to get into Stranger Shores, that setting that they're providing for us, and then also the adventure, the starter adventure that they're providing in this core rulebook as well. And then the end of the book is filled with some extra stuff that you might need to make copies of, print out for your players, character sheets, and reference cards, and the like. So that is the general breakdown of the book itself. The book is going to be around almost 300 pages long. So we're going to go ahead and move forward, and we'll kind of give a brief overview of each of these chapters as we cut through this PDF. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump to character creation, chapter 1 of the players section, which says that we can make our character for Fantasy Age 2nd Edition in just 9 easy steps, and that is to choose a character concept, determine abilities, choose an ancestry, determine the social class and background of your character, choose a class, pick equipment, calculate defense and speed, pick a name, and choose goals and character ties. So let's go ahead and then jump to our character concepts. So character concept is just the idea behind your character. What is that core basic idea of your character that you want to be role-playing? They give you some really great examples here in the book. You could be a child of a disgraced knight who wants to return honor to the family name. You could be an artist seeking inspiration in dark and dangerous places. Or you can be a soldier who has been scarred by the horrors of war. Now, you could choose one of those examples and go with it, run with that, or you can create your own character concept. You can work with your game master as well to come up with some really cool ideas. Once you have your character concept, it's time to determine your ability scores. And in the game of Fantasy Age 2nd Edition, there are 9 core abilities. There's accuracy, communication, constitution, dexterity, fighting, intelligence, perception, strength, and willpower. These are important because when you go to actually do actions in the game, sometimes you will have to make a roll of the dice. And when you do, you're going to be choosing one of these 9 abilities that the action you're trying to do corresponds with, and then also possibly a focus within that ability as well. You'll roll your dice, add your ability score, add any pluses from your focuses, and that will give you your resulting roll. Now, to determine your starting scores in each of these 9 abilities, you have two options. You have one method, the suggested method, which is choosing advances, With choosing advances, you get a score of 13. You get 13 points, and you get to allocate those to the different 9 abilities. You can give no greater than 3 of those advances to any one ability. You could also, it does say here, take a negative to an ability if you wish to, but you do not then gain any extra advances to put towards a different ability. So you just get 13 advances. You can divvy those up between those 9 different abilities, and those will give you your starting ability scores. If you do not want to use the advances method, you could also roll for your ability ratings. So the way that you would do that is you would get to roll 3 6-sided dice, or 3d6, and add those scores together for a single score, and then consult the determining abilities table up at the top of page 12 to get your score. So if you would roll 3d6, get a 3, 4, and 6 for a total of 13. You would look up here at this chart. 13 equals a starting ability of 2, and you would assign that to that ability. So here you do have the possibility of getting more than kind of what you would call 13 advances, but it is kind of swingy as well. I guess if I'm game mastering, I would ask all of my players to do either one or the other, and everybody do the same. So either everybody's going to be rolling for abilities, or everybody's using the 13 advances. That way, if there's some swinginess, we went into it knowing that that would be the possibility. Now, like I said, within each of these abilities, there are focuses, and here on page 12, you do see a list of the ability focuses that are in this game. That's going to come up in a little bit because you will gain focuses to your abilities through the backgrounds you choose, the class you choose, and the ancestry that you choose to play as. Step 3 is Ancestry, and with your Ancestry, you're going to gain a focus, some special qualities, talents, and weapon groups. And here are your Ancestry options. You have the Drac, the Dwarf, the Elf, the Gnome, the Goblin, Halflings, Humans, Orcs, and Wild Folk. Each one of these, as you just saw as I went through here, do have a couple of pages that give you a little bit of lore about that ancestry. You also get a section about names that you can choose from, or at least get some ideas from. And then you get some information about playing that ancestry. And for each one of these, you'll go through this step here where it says you can pick one of the following ability focuses. So for Constitution, as a Wild Folk, you get Stamina or Perception Seeing. So this is where you're starting to really pick out the cool parts of your class, the focuses of your class. You also then, your speed, you get to determine that here, which is 10 plus dexterity, and then you get to your languages. Also, for each of your ancestries, there is going to be a rollable table here where you get to select or roll for some additional benefits from your ancestry, which could be more specialties, more focuses, or it could be bumps to your abilities as well. And then there's more information here for each one of them as well. For the Wild Folk specifically, we see Dark Sight, we also see Glide and Natural Weapon. And then within the Wild Folk, you also have a species rollable table where you choose exactly which species of Wild Folk you might be. So whichever ancestry you choose, you're going to have some differences as well. And you're going to have that rollable table to gain some extra benefits. Now, after you have chosen your ancestry, you get to backgrounds, and within backgrounds, as you go through and choose them, you'll see that you get the name of the background as well as a social class that that background puts you in. And there is a paragraph describing each of those social classes and kind of what that would mean for you in role-playing. With each of the backgrounds, you also then choose between 2 more focuses. So, for example, the Apprentice, you would be upper class, as well as then you would get to choose between Intelligence Arcana Lore or Intelligence Research for your focuses. And there are quite a few backgrounds to choose from. Now, classes is step 5, and in your classes, you're going to get some primary abilities, secondary abilities, starting health, weapons groups, and class powers. And then there is some information here as well for gaining levels throughout the game. You're going to be gaining experience points, and as you gain experience points, your character will be leveling up. When you advance in level, you can advance your abilities, as well as possible defenses and focus advancements, health advancements, stunt advancements, talent, and specialization advancements. So in Fantasy Age 2nd Edition, there are only a few classes to choose from. You have Envoy, you have Mage, Rogue, and Warrior. So there are just 4 main classes to choose from in this game. But where you're really going to get into the fun parts of your class choice is the specialization options. And so you'll see under each one of the classes, under level 1, there is specialization. You may pick one specialization allowed by your class and gain the novice degree of its specialization talent. So this is where you're going to kind of really be branching off from each other. You might have 2 warriors in a party, but maybe one warrior decides to choose the arcane discipline specialization, while another one chooses to go with the mariner and pirate specialization. And from there, you kind of really start to deviate and get two very different characters that are going to be role played at your table, even though they are both coming from that warrior class. So information for each class gives you the information for leveling up as well. You will see with level 1 you get your specialization and starting talents, and then from there on you will get some upgrades at the odd numbered levels, and then also at some specific levels. And so this is going to be different for each of your classes. Step 6 is choosing your starting equipment and your wealth. Step 7 is figuring out your defense and your speed. Defense, as an example, is 10 plus dexterity plus any shield bonuses that you may have. Step 8 is choosing a name, and like I showed you earlier with the ancestries, there are examples of names for each of the ancestries, but those are just examples. You can choose whatever you would like. There are goals and ties then in step 9, where you are kind of tying your group together, and also maybe some NPCs that you might have ties with. And that is everything that you need for your character creation. Chapter 2 gets into the basic rules of the game, and we're not going to get into too much of the nitty-gritty, but I do want to focus very quickly on the idea of the different types of encounters that are going to show up in this game. It's much like most of the other fantasy games that you have played at tabletops. There are action encounters, which can include things like combat. There's exploration encounters, things that are like puzzles that you might have to be doing in the game. And then also social encounters, where your characters are interacting with other NPCs in the game being played by the game master. Now, the big thing that everyone's going to want to know about for Fantasy Age 2nd Edition is going to be ability tests. These are the actions that you try to take where the outcome is unknown, could be dramatic, and your game master is going to ask you to make a die roll in order to succeed at the action you want to take. So whether this is in combat and you're trying to attack somebody, or you're in a social encounter and you're trying to interact with an NPC and maybe win them over to your side, or possibly even again, you're in an exploration encounter and you just need to avoid a trap of some kind. Your game master will ask you to make an ability test. There are a few steps to this. The first being you're going to roll 3d6 and add those numbers together. Now, one of these d6, this is very important for this game, will be a different colored die, and that die will be known as your stunt die. And that will comes into play when you make really good successes and you have the ability to spend those stunt points to do really awesome things. But you're essentially, again, going to be rolling 3d6 and adding those numbers together. Then, whatever the ability is that you are using, to try to do the action you're attempting, that also gets added in. So let's say specifically here that you're trying to use accuracy as your ability. You're going to roll the 3d6 and then add your accuracy bonus. And then, if you are able to, you can add your focus within the accuracy ability to give yourself a +2 to that roll as well. So, all in all, you have the ability to roll 3d6, add your ability, and then possibly then also add your focus for that ability if it is applicable to the test that you're doing. Now, the very last part of these tests is to determine your result. And you're usually going to have either a target number that has been set by the game master, or you might even be doing opposed rolls. If it's a target number, that is a set number that you are trying to reach in order to succeed, or if it's an opposed roll, it is seeing who can roll the best. Will it be the player, or will it be the NPC or the monster that the player is interacting with or trying to defeat in combat? So if it's an opposed roll, the Game Master will also be rolling the 3d6, adding abilities, and adding modifiers as well. Again, if it's a target number, the Game Master has decided how difficult the task is you're trying to succeed at, and then you're just trying to reach that target number. Now that is the core bit of the basic rules section here. There is a bunch more information here that I will leave for you to discuss and find out for yourself if you get this game. There's different types of tests, there's the ways of measuring time, and there are actions that you can take, major and minor actions in combat. There's free actions, reactions, and also it talks about variable actions as well. So that is everything that we're really going to get into right now in the basic rules chapter. Next, we'll be jumping to character options. Chapter 3, Character Options, dives into a little bit more of the specifics of the options that you have available for your character to make them more unique. One of those things are your ability focuses, and you get this really nice couple of pages here that focus on a description of each of the focuses underneath each of the individual 9 abilities. There are tons of them. Some examples are under the accuracy. There's bows and brawling. Underneath the communication ability, there's animal handling and etiquette and persuasion. Underneath the constitution ability are running and tolerance. Under dexterity, there's acrobatics and sailing. Under fighting, you see axes and bludgeons and heavy blades. Under intelligence, there's arcana and arcane lore and healing. Under perception, you see empathy and searching and tasting. Strength focuses, you see driving and might and smithing. And then under willpower, we see courage and faith, morale, and self-discipline. So you see that underneath each one of the abilities, there are a handful or more focuses that you could be picking out and choosing, and these will give you added bonuses to rolls with those focuses. You start off with a +2 from each one of these focuses, and then as you progress, it can go up to a +3, possibly even a +4 if you do a double focus. Beyond the ability focuses, we get into talents, and talents give you some information about which ancestries every once in a while you have to be a certain ancestry to take a talent. That is pretty rare, but there are a few of those. Then there's also some talents that are specific to some type of classes. Again, that not all of those. Some of these are very available to all classes. And then there are other requirements that you may have to reach. Maybe you have to have a certain ability score in order to gain that talent. And then each talent is broken down into 3 levels. There's novice, expert, and master. In order to gain the expert ability of a talent, you have to first have chosen to take the novice ability for that talent, and then same thing for master. So you have to progressively move your way up within each one of these talents, and there are quite a few of those to choose from as well as you play the game. Beyond talents, we get into specializations, and again, this is where I was talking earlier. When you choose your class, you will have these specializations to choose from that allow you to kind of branch out, so that you might have multiple warriors, but you're choosing to specialize in different areas. And this is the portion of the book where you can get into some of those. Again, this is also breaking these specializations down into novice, expert, and master. Quite a few options here. So again, you might be thrown off a little bit at first when you look at the class section and see that there's only 4 classes to choose from. But here, where you get to the specializations and the talent, that's where you start to see that branching and that ability to really get some very differing characters, even though you only start off with those 4 different classes. Chapter 4 dives into equipment and the currency within Fantasy Age 2nd Edition. So we see here an example of standard currency conversion of 1 gold piece equals 10 silver pieces, which equals 100 copper pieces. But then we also see information about weapon details as well. So we see the different types of weapons that there are, and we see that they're broken down into groups. We have axe group, black powder group, bludgeons group, bows group, brawling, dueling. We see here a layout of the weapons, the type of damage that they can do, broken down into, again, as D6s. As well as then the minimum strength that you might need to have in order to wield one of these weapons, and then the cost of the weapon themselves if you're wanting to purchase them. You also see with missile weapon ranges that there's information about reloading and whether it takes a major action or a reaction to load it, what the short range is and what the long range is as well. So we have much more groups here following up: heavy blade group, lance group, light blade group, slings and polearms, spears and staves. We then also get into armor and how those break down into the different types, what their armor rating is, any penalties that they might give you for wearing them. So you can see here that light leather gives you a 0 penalty, while heavy plate armor gives you a -5 armor penalty, which is going to adjust your speed in the game. We also see shields and the different types they are and the bonuses that they provide. And there's just a whole slew of information in here. There's information about traveling and adventuring, the types of equipment that you'll need for that, carrying and storage, so backpacks and barrels and bottles and buckets and all the things. And then the different types of tools that are available in the game as well, and what they can be utilized for in-game. There's information about the clothes and fashion, trade goods and raw materials that you might need for making things or putting together potions, professional gear and home and hearth, food and lodging, beast, tack, and harness. So tons of information for equipment. Next is Chapter 5, and it is all about magic. If you are a mage, if you are going to be wielding spells, this is the chapter for you. Magic in this game is broken down into 19 different spell talents, and so this is a pretty large chapter here, but it breaks them down into these different arcanas. There's air, beast, cold, death, divination, earth, enchantment, fate, fire, healing, heroic, illusion, lightning, power, protection, mind, shadow, water, and wood. So many options here. So like the other classes having talents, the mages have their spell talents that they can choose from, and again, they're going to be broken down into novice and expert and master as you move through a talent. Now, there's magic points, and with your magic points, you're going to get so many to start off with, and it's going to be 10 plus your willpower plus a d6. So that's how many magic points you have to begin with, and as long as you have the magic point, as long as you have enough magic points to equal the cost of the spell you're trying to cast, then you can go ahead and test yourself and try to cast that spell. As you level up your character, you will be adding your willpower plus a d6 roll, and that's how many more magic points you earn at each level until you get to levels 11 through 20, where you will just add your willpower plus 1. So that is how you gain magic points, and again, as long as you have the magic points required for the spell, you can then try to cast that spell. Casting the spell is rolling 3d6, again, one of those d6 being different colored for your stunt die, and you roll those 3d6, add them together, add your intelligence, and then add your arcana focus if it is applicable to the test that you are rolling. So you're going to be rolling those. If you have to roll for spell power, again, that is a 10 plus willpower plus arcana focus. So that is how you're going to be rolling for your spells. And again, you are rolling that stunt die, always with the possibility of then utilizing stunt points to do stunts. Here we have a list of some basic spell stunts. And then we also have a list for some divine stunts as well. The rest of this chapter, again, is focusing on the different, 19 different arcana types and the spells that are available to you within those arcana types. So let's take a real quick look so that we can see an example. We do see here Air Arcana, the wind obeys your commands. As a novice, you learn 2 novice Air Arcana spells of your choice. Then as an expert, you learn 1 novice or expert Air Arcana spell of your choice, and you also gain the focus Intelligence Air Arcana. And then as a master, you learn any 1 spell from the Arcana you wish, and you can also choose 1 spell stunt you can perform for 1 less spell stunt point when casting Air Arcana spells. And so under each one of these different arcana is a list of spells that you can choose from when you're choosing new spells. Each spell, you'll see the requirements that you need for them, the spell type that it is, the casting time you need in order to cast it, how many magic points or MP cost it is, and the target number you're going to be trying to hit in order to cast that spell. And then it gives you a paragraph or 2 describing what the spell does. And that is going to be, like I said, the rest of this chapter broken down into those 19 different kinds of arcana with multiple spells underneath each arcana to choose from as you are leveling up your character and trying to do more awesome spells. Chapter 6, Stunts, is the final chapter in the Players section for Fantasy Age 2nd Edition, and Stunts is where Fantasy Age really shines in comparison to some of the other tabletop role-playing games that are out there. So stunts are done by earning stunt points and then spending them to enhance the action that you're already trying to take. So when you decide to take an action, you'll be making your test roll, and you'll roll your 3d6, and if any of those 3 die show the same number, or that's called doubles, then you earn the amount of stunt points that is showing on your stunt die. So like I said earlier, when you're making those tests, you're rolling 3d6, and one of those is different colored, and that's your stunt die. So for example, let's say you're doing a test and you roll the 3d6 and you get 2 1s. And on your stunt die, you have a 5. Well, that would mean you have just earned 5 stunt points, and you must immediately utilize those stunt points in doing a stunt. And that stunt can be pulled from one of the either basic stunt lists or possibly even a list specific to your class. But these are ways to narratively flourish your action as well as give you some mechanical benefits as well. So you can earn your stunt points by the method I just mentioned called doubles, where you roll your 3d6 and 2 of them match the same number, and then you look to your stunt die to see what number is on it, and that is how many stunt points you've just earned. Or you can take the stunt attack action, which automatically generates 2 stunt points on a success, whether you roll doubles or not, but it does not cause damage or have any other effects. So you're giving yourself 2 stunt points. Now, if you do roll doubles, you either get those 2 stunt points or the number on the stunt die, whichever one is higher. So again, you're generating stunt points from either rolling doubles or taking the stunt attack action, and then you're utilizing those stunt points to do some basic stunts or advanced stunts, or possibly even some class-specific stunts. And your goal here is to then narrate. You want to tell a story with the stunt that you're choosing to take, and the stunt must fit the action with which you are actually taking. So here is a list on page 152 of some basic combat stunts that are available to players. There's also a list of basic social stunts, because stunts are not just specific to combat. You can use them in all the different types of encounters here in Fantasy Age 2nd Edition. So the basic social stunts. There's a list of basic exploration stunts and also basic spell stunts. And then the rest of this chapter gets into class-specific stunts that are available to you depending on which class you are. So this is a really, really cool chapter, and I think it's probably the thing that really stands out to me the most when it comes to setting Fantasy Age apart from other fantasy role-playing games. And that is the end of the players section of Fantasy Age 2nd Edition. Next, we will be getting into the Game Masters section. So I'm not going to go into great detail over the Game Masters section. If you're somebody out there who is hoping to be a Game Master and maybe you've run games before, this will be probably a little bit of just a refresher course on what it is to be a Game Master. But if you're new, then you're definitely going to be wanting to read through all of this to gain the information that they have for you. But Chapter 7, the Game Master, is just really breaking down for you what it is to be a Game Master and how to go about pulling together players and setting up a good gaming session, whether you're going to be running the game online or in person. It even talks a little bit about possibly trying to make sure that as you're pulling together some players, you're getting a nice diverse group of people at the table, leading to a more complex and rich story that's being created by you and the players. Chapter 8 dives into mastering the rules of the game and also how to work with your players in helping them understand the rules and the complexity of the game that they're playing as well, and doing so in a kind way. Then getting into Chapter 9, you have adversaries. This is where you're going to be getting some stat blocks for the NPCs and the monsters that your players are coming up against in their combats or their social encounters. And then Chapter 10 dives into rewards, helping your players get through leveling up their characters and the possibility of treasure as well. Now, Chapter 11 is a little bit different here. We steer away from how to be a game master that we had in the last 4 chapters, and now we have a pre-made setting for the game master to pull from to either gain inspiration from or use just directly from the book. So here we have Breakwater Bay, and again, it's a few pages here really detailing the lore of this world that has been created for the Game Master to utilize the gods and the cults that populate it, the places of note, and some very important NPCs to utilize as well. And then after you get your way through this setting and understanding the setting, then there is also Set Sail for Breakwater Bay, which is a short 4-scene adventure that you can run for your players that takes place in Breakwater Bay. This is something that I was really pleased to see in this core rulebook. I think pretty much nowadays any role-playing game book or core book that does not come with at least a short adventure is really selling their players and their game masters short. There should always be at least a short adventure ready to run. Drop your players and your game master into the world as quickly as possible. So I'm very glad to see that they made sure to add that here at the end of Fantasy Age 2nd Edition. The book itself ends now with a glossary of some terms here in the book, as well as an index so that you can quickly find some of the things that you are looking for. And then there are going to be some handouts here at the back. You have a peril and daring tracker, you have your initiative and quick reference cards, and then you also have your character sheets, which you can use to make copies of, and all of these things are available as well for printing out online. Everybody, that is the Fantasy Age 2nd Edition core rulebook, and I can't wait to hear back from you in the comments below. What do you think about this game? Are you super excited about the second edition of Fantasy Age? Did you play first edition? And if you watched this video, what are the things that you're noticing might be different from first edition to second edition? So everybody, thank you for watching. I hope this video helped you decide if this is a game that you would like to get and to play at your table. Definitely comment in the sections below. You can head over to Green Ronin's website as well as the tabletopgamingguild.com website to learn a little bit more about us. And everybody, thanks again for watching, and until we talk again, keep on playing games.